Number 10. Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal is probably most famous for his Hall of Fame level career as an NBA superstar, but let's be real, you know him more as the icy hot guy. He's a co-host of TNT's Inside the NBA, he starred in dozens of commercials, and he's even starred in a few movies back in the day like Steel, Blue Chips, and Kazam, where he played a genie released from a magic boombox. If you haven't seen that movie, stop watching this right now and go find it. It's just oh so terrible, I love it. What many may not know, however, is that he was offered the role of a lifetime by Tom Hanks, but turned him down. He was offered the role of John Coffey in the film The Green Mile, a towering, gentle, and innocent death row prisoner in the 1930s with supernatural gifts. The role was eventually portrayed by Michael Clarke Duncan in what has gone on to be one of the best performances of his career. Shaq claimed later on that his refusal was simply due to him not wanting to portray the African-American guy from the Bayou, but he did portray a boombox genie, so I'm not really sure that he made the smartest acting choices back in the day, but yeah, you can decide that. Number 9. Chet Hayes. For those who don't know, Chet Hayes is actually Tom's son. Chet has made a name for himself as one of Hollywood's biggest jerks. He's had some successful roles on shows like Shameless and Empire, and he's had a decent music career as well. However, Chet takes every chance that he can to defy his father and prove just how opposite he is to his dad. Tom's actually thrown his son a bone on several occasions and tried to convince him to appear alongside him in something. It took a long time, but Chet has always been adamant about following in his own footsteps and not in his father's. Chet's brother Colin Hanks has been a mainstream actor for a while himself. You may recognize him from comedy hits like Orange County, The House Bunny, and so many more. Chet wanting to carve his own path makes sense, but he's been going about it in a terrible way. Chet is slammed regularly for his use of racial slurs and accents in songs, and it only seems to be getting more and more problematic, meaning the chances of Tom and his son co-starring in a project together, that's highly unlikely. Number 8. Tim Allen. Okay, yeah, I know that Tim Allen and Tom Hanks were literally Woody and Buzz from Toy Story. Okay, so quit your typing in the comments, but it's not like they're always in the same room recording lines, right? Following the success of the first Toy Story film, Tim and Hanks were asked to return over and over again to voice their iconic animated counterparts, but Tim has apparently been harboring some resentment to his Toy Story co-star. He said in interviews that people always ask him about Woody and not Buzz, and expressed some jealousy towards Tom over his many Oscar wins. Tom has received 8 Oscars in his lifetime, and Tim has received 0 Oscars in his lifetime, and is understandably annoyed, because like come on, Galaxy Quest totally should have gotten him an Oscar. Quality flick. With the revival of this Toy Story franchise, Tom also began expressing his annoyance at the lack of quality lines delivered by his character. Instead, he was reduced to a funny punching bag. These two may be on the same screen as CGI toys, but behind the scenes they avoid each other as much as possible, even getting Pixar to schedule their recording sessions on alternate days. Number 7. Brad Pitt. In the mid-90s, Tom Hanks began casting a little movie called Apollo 13. The film followed the real-life story of a team of American astronauts on a moon mission in 1970 when their flight goes horribly wrong. Tom had just finished writing the success of his back-to-back feature films Philadelphia and Forrest Gump, and he wanted an all-star lineup for his new project. In the end, he recruited Bill Paxton from Alien 2, Gary Sinise, who played Lieutenant Dan alongside Hank in Forrest Gump, and Footloose star Kevin Bacon. But Kevin's role, though, was initially offered to Brad Pitt, who had been slowly making a name for himself at the time. Pitt ultimately turned down the role as he had just been asked to star alongside Morgan Freeman in the horror mystery thriller Seven. While both films were a massive success, it's sad that Brad never took up Hank's offer, and he has yet to hint at the possibility of them ever working together. Number 6. Amy Poehler. So, fun fact I just learned today, Amy Poehler and Tom Hanks actually dated briefly in the mid-80s, and it looks like they did not end things on a good note. When Amy hosted the Golden Globes in 2014, she made a slight at Tom's expense by pronouncing his name Tam Hanks. Hanks was in attendance and visibly confused. Although it seemed like a one-off joke at the time, that was far from the case. Apparently, Amy holds a lot of resentment towards Hanks still after all these years. When Tom was asked about the incident, he said that he hadn't spoken to Poehler since they broke up. They shared a small apartment in Eagle Rock for about 6 months before Tom met his current wife, Rita. Apparently, Amy didn't like his dog, and she stole some of the good records when they broke up. So that's just harsh. They've both expressed professional respect for each other's careers. Tom made a slew of Hollywood hits, and Poehler had an awesome comedy career, culminating in the creation of the show Parks and Rec, where she portrays Leslie Knope. And if you haven't seen that, check it out.
Number 5. Kate Moss. Once upon a time, Kate Moss and Gwyneth were actually pretty tight, the best of best friends while they were swapping clothes from their luxurious closets. But jump forward to 2012 and the relationship between Gwyneth and model Kate Moss has definitely soured, as the two can't even stand to be in the same room as each other. Back in March of 2012, before a birthday party for Sir Philip Green in Mexico, the clean living actress decided to go for a run before things got a little too crazy. The Sun would then report that Kate even asked Gwyneth why she was running, to which the Oscar winner spat back, "So I don't look like you when I get old," which honestly really isn't an insult if you think about it, as Kate looks fabulous and I honestly hope I look like her when I reach her age. The model then let loose some of her steam and threw a bag of chips at Gwyneth and told her to eat some carbs. Ooh. Number 4. Winona Ryder. So back in the 90s, Winona Ryder and Gwyneth Paltrow were considered to be two of Hollywood's hottest it girls. And before they even made it big, they actually were the bestest of friends, and they even shared a little apartment together. Unfortunately, apparently you can't stay best friends for the rest of your life, as it was their professional goals that tore their former friendship apart. On Gwyneth's website in 2009, she would write about an unnamed frenemy who was rumored to be Winona. In this article, she would then state that this frenemy was venomous, dangerous, and hell-bent on taking her down. The bad blood between the two former friends apparently began when Gwyneth spotted the script Shakespeare in Love among her friends and called her agent to get her a role. Gwyneth then went on to steal the role from Winona and the Oscar that went with it. And this is why, if you work in the same business as your friends, you never tell them what you're getting up to or what you're working on. Coming in number 3, we have Madonna. So like Winona Ryder and Kate Moss, Madonna and Gwyneth actually used to be really close friends. But if you haven't really caught on to the pattern yet, it's clear that times haven't changed, as once these two ladies were bonding over everything from Britain and a love of music. But once Madonna's marriage fell through the cracks, Gwyneth abandoned her old friend. In fact, the fallout between the two actually didn't happen until the Material Girl decided to drop Gwyneth's best friend forever, Tracy Anderson, as her trainer. Combined with a lack of shared interests, friendship fizzled out, leading to Madonna being banned from Gwyneth's inner circle. To the point even Gwyneth would say, "Yeah, it's good Tracy doesn't train Madonna anymore. She keeps people waiting and it takes up your whole day." Number 2, Sebastian Stan. Sebastian Stan is another actor that has been cast away from Gwyneth's memory, as like she did with Tom Holland. She has no idea who he is despite working together in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Perhaps it's because of all the brain dust moon juice from her Goop products that is really affecting her head. The Captain American sidekick is having none of it. The actor who plays Bucky Barnes, aka the Winter Soldier, called out Gwyneth after he had to make her acquaintance again during Paris Fashion Week, when he claimed that they have worked together more than once. Sebastian would then take a photo with Gwyneth, where he would later post to his Instagram and say, "Glad I got to reintroduce myself to Gwyneth Paltrow for the 3rd time. They're in the same film." What made Sebastian post even more shocking is that he even tagged her in it. While their characters don't really interact a lot during the film, at least he did have the respect to call her out and do it to her face. But maybe a 4th reintroduction will be the charm, if Sebastian even wants to go there. And coming at number 1 today, we have Martha Stewart. So much like the feud we saw erupt between Kanye West and Taylor Swift, Martha Stewart and Gwyneth Paltrow have been kicking it for what it feels like an eternity, or at least 7 Martha Stewart white sails. The feud can date back all the way to 2013, but since then it has escalated into a full-fledged war between the two houses. Back when it all began, Martha told Porter magazine that Gwyneth just needs to be quiet. She's a movie star. If she were confident in her acting, she wouldn't be trying to be the next Martha Stewart. That same year, Martha would then take a swipe at Gwyneth's conscious uncoupling from her ex-husband, Chris Martin. And if the wounds from their divorce weren't deep enough, Gwyneth followed it with a Goop recipe for a jailbird cake to take a swipe at Martha, as you know she is an ex-con. And the feud between the two lifestyle gurus certainly hasn't been watered down, as back in September 2017, Martha pulled a total Mariah Carey move on Watch What Happens Live when she joked, Who's Goop? And on the same show in early 2020, she dismissed Paltrow's Coochie Candle customers as just guys who were lonely and in the mood, and now we're all waiting for Gwyneth to make the next move. Coming in number 10 today, we have Leah Michelle. The star of Glee, Leah Michelle, seems to just be obsessed with being a diva like her character was on the show. According to a long list of people who have worked with the actor over the years, they have accused Leah of being a racist, arrogant, spoiled, and hateful. While only rumors have circulated about her demeanor before, Pandora's box would open after Leah made a tweet about her support of Black Lives Matter movement and the George Floyd protest against racism. Samantha Ware, who played Jane Hayward on Glee's final season, called out Michelle for her hypocrisy, racism, and aggressive bullying actions after Samantha spoke out. Dozens of co-stars, film crew, and stars flooded social media with stories about the diva that makes you wonder, even after she was exposed, how she was still able to go on and land the lead role of Funny Girl, even after former 30 Rock actor Keith Powell accused Leah of being a terrible person as he witnessed on the background of Glee Leah calling background actors cockroaches, telling multiple crew members how to do their jobs, and even witnessing Leah have a tantrum over something that resulted in her holding up the film schedule for at least an extra hour. Number 9, Jennifer Aniston. It may be surprising that Jennifer Aniston has a bad reputation when it comes to working with other people on set, as she's been painted to look like the all-American nice girl. However, Jennifer Aniston has also garnered a bad reputation for being a bit of a snob with her cast members and crew when she's working on sets. It's said that Jennifer will refuse to eat with the other cast members, and she demands that her trailer is to be placed further away from everyone else, and she purposely avoids talking to her co-stars and cast members, her co-stars and crew members, unless she absolutely has to. Besides that, Jennifer has also been accused of being more concerned about her appearance more than she is about reality. She only got the best when she redecorated her Bel Air mansion, dresses, and she even stylized her ex-husband Justin when they were still together. It's also been said that she will turn down a role if she doesn't deem it as a powerful, classy, and sophisticated role. But I mean, do we really blame her, because she worked really hard to get to where she is today, and she's allowed to be picky when it comes to her well-being and image. Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Coming number 8, we have Jennifer Lopez. Jennifer Lopez has been accused of having a list of demands every time she works on an event or a film set. When she was running for the opening ceremonies of India's Premier League cricket tournament, what may have seemed like a massive opportunity would soon evaporate when the organizers received Jennifer's list of demands. Among the big asks that repeatedly came through from her manager was a private plane, a host of hotel rooms for her entourage, stylist, and handlers. Also, when she was set to perform at the 2010 World Video Music Awards, she reportedly insisted on a custom-fitted speedboat and requested a pair of diamond-encrusted headphones and a helicopter to be on standby. By 2012, it's also been reported that the singer and actress even banned staff that were working on her new home from speaking to her or even making eye contact with her. Not to mention, there has also been some sets that accused Jennifer of manipulating the cast and crew members. Number 7, Christian Bale. Christian Bale is seen as a bit off-putting by many of his fellow actors for a couple of reasons. One is that he is a fairly angry person who takes things a bit too seriously at times. Another is he tends to be fascinated by real-world violence and sees it as a means of making the world work. Back in 2009, an audio recording would be leaked to the media, and it would start to make headlines as it would show Christian Bale's infamous outburst towards cinematographer Shane Hurlbut on the set of the Terminator Salvation. In the audio, Christian could be heard yelling at Shane when he said, "You do it one more effing time and I ain't walking on the set if you're still hired. You're a nice guy, but that doesn't effing cut it." After the audio clip was released, Christian would later apologize for his outburst during an interview on Kevin and Bean's radio show on KROQ, where he would say, "I was out of order beyond belief. I was way out of order and I acted like a punk. I regret that." It's clear that Christian has a reputation of not being one to cross, joke with, or get too close with, because you never know how he will truly react. Number 6, Edward Norton. Edward Norton is infamous for trying to rewrite the script of almost every movie he is a part of. Even Edward tried to make an attempt to rewrite the script of Red Dragon in the middle of the filming. He would then battle with Marvel over his Incredible Hulk contemporaries, and the director of American History X still curses Edward's name for ruining the film with his rewrites of the script. Edward made a relatively rare televised appearance in the summer of 2018, showing up for the taping of the Comedy Central roast of Bruce Willis. As one does at a roast, Edward took some pretty harsh jabs at Bruce Willis when he said things like, "I tried to mutilate you in American History X, I shaved my head, I acted like a racist, it's probably the closest any actor has come to being you in a film. And I got nominated for a Best Actor Oscar." But much of Edward's routine was just a setup to throw one final insult at the Marvel Cinematic Universe and people who make the movies when he said, "I try to be like you, I did a big action movie called The Incredible Hulk. You know what went wrong? I wanted a better script. Thought we should make one Marvel movie that was good as the worst Chris Nolan movie. But what the hell was I thinking?"
Number 5. Denzel Washington. You may know Denzel Washington as the Equalizer, a man who believes he has put his mysterious past behind him and cannot stand idly by when he meets a girl under the control of violent Russian criminals. What some of you may not know about Denzel and Jamie is that they physically aren't allowed to be on set together. Well, why? It's just because they never actually get any work done. In 2018, Jamie brought Denzel onto an episode of his short-lived interview-style talk show called Off Script. During the conversation, the two are regularly distracted and veer far off course from the topic of discussion several times. There were a lot of laughs during that interview, and the spark of a team-up between the two went wild. Denzel and Jamie in a movie together? Yes, please. Well, Denzel said no thank you. While he has nothing against Jamie, they can both agree that the on-set shenanigans that would surely take place would set whatever production they were on back, by a lot, way back. The only way this would ever work is if it was some kind of an action comedy, but even then the bloopers may be longer than the finished product. Number 4. Katt Williams. You are sure to recognize our next entry on this list. Heck, there's probably a good chance you can just hear his voice by looking at a picture of him. Katt Williams is an actor and comedian with a solid lineup of belly-buster comedies under his belt, including Friday After Next, the Scary Movie franchise, and of course, his multiple solo stand-up comedy showcases. What many may not know though is that Katt's been known to fly off the handle once or twice a day. During many of his live performances, Katt has claimed to know secrets about several of his fellow comedians, particularly their preferences and partners. Katt has gone on mic and claimed that Jamie is gay on multiple occasions. Well, of course Jamie doesn't appreciate that. Even if he is, it's none of your darn business, so just leave it off stage. Even if he is, you don't need to talk about it on stage. On top of this, following Jamie's recent hospitalization, Katt has expressed in interviews that his theory is that Jamie has been silenced for what he said about P. Diddy. But Katt also said stuff about P. Diddy and it was the same thing, so why is Jamie in the hospital and you're not, Katt? The refusal to work together is very mutual for this one, as both Jamie and Katt have expressed their professional respect towards each other, but the chances of these two coming together for a project is pretty unlikely. Number 3. Ed Sheeran. If you've been to a wedding in the last 10 years, you've certainly heard this man's soothing voice. Ed Sheeran first debuted on the UK charts with his single, The A-Team, in June 2011. Since then, he slowly made his way up the charts and to where he is now. The redhead heartthrob has been in our ears for years. Did you know that he was also in Jamie's house for 2 months? During an interview for the Graham Norton show, Jamie shared a story. When Ed Sheeran first got to the States, he was seeking any opportunity to share his music with the world, and luckily for him at the time, Jamie Foxx was hosting a radio show in Los Angeles. Ed tracked down the location of the studio and set up a meeting with Foxx. Foxx then took him to his home studio and asked Ed to play. Obviously, Jamie was blown away. Not only did Jamie play his music on air, but he also wanted to see how well Ed could perform for a crowd that was not expecting him. Jamie put Ed at the end of a show featuring prominently African American performers from various genres. And while not what they were expecting, he tore the room apart and got a standing ovation in 12 minutes. This experience on top of the radio gig must have been enough for Ed to want to work with Jamie forever, right? This dude started his career. Well, nah. Ed got out of there after about 6 weeks and he started making his mark on the stage. Ed's refusal to collab with Jamie doesn't come from a place of malice, so perhaps staying with Jamie for 6 weeks exposed him to some kind of a secret that maybe we don't know yet. Maybe we'll learn. Who knows? Number 2, Bobby Brown. Bobby is an American singer, songwriter, and dancer, and is noted as one of the pioneers of New Jack Swing, a fusion of hip-hop and R&B. He's been working hard since 1978, but much like any of us, he likes to kick back and relax with a little bit of karaoke. Himself and his then wife Whitney Houston decided to attend a party at their friend Jamie Foxx's house. Jamie would regularly throw karaoke parties, and a few notable celebrities have apparently stopped by. On The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, Jamie told the audience that he used to get NSYNC and Backstreet Boys to sing each other's songs. Oh my god, that sounds fun. Heck, even the great Hugh Hefner stopped by to drop a verse. But most notably was Bobby Brown and his then wife Whitney Houston. Whitney had recently been crowned the R&B singer of the millennia, so this was a massive deal for Jamie. He pulled out his gigantic camera, he clicked on the battery pack and started filming. Whitney Houston went on stage and did the song from Titanic that we all know and love, and it was a beautiful performance, followed by a few tunes from Bobby as well. Well, when Bobby asked Jamie for the footage from that night, Jamie had only recorded the parts of Whitney being on stage and not Bobby. Apparently his face dropped and he scolded Jamie for not capturing his glorious moment. There are several reasons for these two not to work together, but this one is just so sad. That video would have been a historical document at this point. And at number 1, Seth Gordon. While you may not know Seth by name, you've most certainly seen his work. Seth has been a director since the early 2000s and has had a massive slew of successful comedy outings like Horrible Bosses, Pixels, and the 2017 Baywatch remake. Okay, those last two are bad examples, but Horrible Bosses is a good movie. Seth was recently tasked with directing a new action comedy for Netflix starring Cameron Diaz and Jamie Foxx. Initially, Seth seemed very into the idea of working with Jamie and was pretty excited to have him on board for the movie, but with the multiple setbacks by both the weather and Jamie personally, it seems that Seth has decided to wrap production on the film early, using Jamie's stunt double to fill his place. According to the director, the team has enough usable audio and video footage to stitch together a final product without actually needing Jamie. This is extremely suspicious, as this decision was only made 2 days after Jamie fell mysteriously ill. If your lead actor is hospitalized, you shouldn't just wrap up without them, unless of course you know that they're not coming back anytime soon, which, considering the circumstances, would not be a surprise to anyone. Heck, if anybody got paid to keep quiet about something, it would probably be Seth.
Number 10, Christopher Titus. The American comedian did not hold back when it came to criticizing Will Smith for the initial incident at the 2022 Oscars, when he walked on stage and slapped Chris Rock for joking about his wife Jada. Titus took to the podcast Christopher Titus TV and openly spoke about his disdain for the actor. Quote, "Watching the arrogance of Will Smith that night, I think that Will Smith probably believes he can do anything. In fact, many comedians took particular issue with Chris Rock being attacked, arguing that they should not be afraid for their own safety on stage, just because they like to tell risky jokes." But Titus did not find Will's latest YouTube apology to be sincere either, and was among the many Twitter voices that condemned the video as fake and self-centered. Quote, "Will Smith has lost me again. Dude, Chris said he'll contact you when he's ready. Why are you pushing him? You attacked a man on a global broadcast. You don't get to pick the redemption schedule, and by doing it publicly, you made it about you again." So it seems like Titus doesn't think Will deserves a get out of jail free card just yet. Number 9, Morgan Tremaine. Known for his explosive testimony during the Johnny Depp vs. Amber Heard defamation trial, former TMZ journalist Morgan Tremaine garnered international praise for his infamous, quick-witted comeback to Heard's lawyer Elaine Bredhoft. But Tremaine once again was able to articulate what many people were thinking about the latest apology video from Will Smith. According to the producer, the video appeared more like a PR stunt than a genuine apology. Quote, "This Will Smith apology video has PR team written all over it. They're testing the waters to see how the general public feels about him. Nothing to do with Chris." There might be some truth to how Tremaine feels though, because apart from the obvious product placement, the apology also serves another purpose, as Will is now starting to make big moves in an effort to have a career comeback, which has suffered quite a bit due to him being cancelled. It's been revealed that Smith is planning to star in a sequel to one of his most iconic movies, I Am Legend. So it makes sense that what we are now seeing is the actor slowly trying trying to rebuild his reputation in Hollywood. Number 8. Chris Rock's brothers. Chris's brother Kenny Rock told the LA Times that he would like to see the Academy take back the Oscar that Will won that night. However, what gets to him most about the entire incident is that he has continued to watch it play out on TV over and over again, and there's nothing that he can do. Quote, "It eats at me watching it over and over again because you've seen a loved one being attacked and there's nothing you can do about it. My brother was no threat to him and you just had no respect for him in that moment. You just belittled him in front of millions of people that watched the show." Tony Rock, who was actually close with Will at one point, called out the actor during a comedy show. Quote, "If you think you're gonna walk up on this stage, this ain't the mother effing Oscars." He threatened to fight back if Will ever tried the same thing with him. In fact, the Oscar winner addressed Tony during his apology video. Quote, "I want to apologize to Chris's family, especially Tony Rock. You know, we had a great relationship. You know, Tony Rock was my man, and this is probably irreparable." That seems to be the case, as one Twitter user asked if the actor approved of Will's apology, and he simply responded by saying no. Number 7. The View. Smith received a hell of a lot of criticism for the slap itself, but a lot of people really seem to take issue with the video apology that he released a whole 4 months after the incident. The ladies on The View spoke about how disappointing it was to see Will Smith upload a 5-minute video addressing what is actually a really serious issue, considering it happened to Dave Chappelle too that same month. The hosts voiced their opinion about the Oscar slap and spoke about Will's apology video not long after it was released. While they unanimously agreed that it was a good first step, they said it simply wasn't enough to make good with Chris Rock. Alyssa Farah Griffin said, "I think he's got to go further, and even the fact that he didn't do this in more of an interview format where he might be challenged with some tough questions, I was a little surprised by." She then went on to say that it's a lot easier to say something scripted to camera than to ask, "What was your motivation? Why didn't you then apologize in your acceptance speech?" Alyssa feels Smith should have sat down with Oprah because then she would have challenged him. Joy Behar also agreed with her and thought he should have come on The View instead. But it's clear that they felt the video format of the apology made it much too easy for him to evade criticism. Number 6. Megyn Kelly. The veteran journalist believed that Smith made it all about himself at the Oscars when he walked on stage and slapped his longtime friend. Megyn Kelly was super critical of his actions that night and felt that the actor simply saw an opportunity to make himself appear as the tough guy standing up for his partner. She said that most guys would have handled it after the set and spoken to the comedian backstage. Then Kelly insisted that Smith used his 2 minutes on the world stage to defend his actions when he should have been apologizing immediately for how he acted. Quote, "It was a defense of him losing his temper. He should have got up there and he should have said, 'I'm very sorry for my bad behavior. I apologize to Chris, to the other nominees, and to the people whose attention I've wrongly dragged away from them on what would be their greatest night of their lives.'" Well, does she feel any differently now? Not really. In fact, she recently called out his newest YouTube video on the Megyn Kelly show and reiterated her comments, this time suggesting that Smith is only sorry now because he has a new movie coming out, so he really needs that public forgiveness to ensure its success.
Number 5. Debra Winger. In 1992, A League of Their Own attracted huge audiences with its star-studded cast that included, of course, Tom Hanks, but also Madonna, Rosie O'Donnell, and Lori Petty playing team members on the Rockford Peaches, who were a team in the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League that was around during World War II. Debra Winger, known for 80s movies like Urban Cowboy, An Officer and a Gentleman, and Terms of Endearment, had signed up to play the lead character, Dottie Hinson, and she got into it, spending 3 months training with the Chicago Cubs. Well, that is until she learned that Madonna had been cast in the film. Just like that, Winger was out. She would later tell The Telegraph that she felt like the movie had become a pop star showcase and that few of the other actors had prepared as extensively as she had. Clearly, they were not good enough for her, so Gina Davis got to play Dottie instead, acting alongside Hanks instead of Winger. Number 4. Kathleen Turner. 1986's The Money Pit starred Hanks and Shelley Long as a young couple, Walter and Anna, who buy their dream house only to find that everything that can go wrong with it does, resulting in all kinds of destructive mishaps and costly repairs. Well, Long was not the first choice for Anna. Originally, the role of Anna would have gone to Kathleen Turner. This was right after she put out Romancing the Stone, among other hits. Kathleen got offered Anna in The Money Pit, but at the same time got approached for a sequel to Romancing the Stone. Despite an apparently subpar script and a fight
fight about salary for Romancing the Stone, Turner still decided to do The Jewel of the Nile over The Money Pit, and by extension, she decided to do that film over working with Tom Hanks. I'm sure she was just fine with it though, considering she's pretty big. Number 3, Howard Stern. Howard Stern does not dislike Tom Hanks, and he may not have even refused to work with the guy. I just want to talk about this. Sorry, but also not really. He may be fine with Tom, but Howard definitely is not a fan of Hanks' family black sheep. If you have not heard of Chet Hanks and how he is a menace, well, a quick Google search will enlighten you to his use of racial slurs, DUIs, and bad rapping. Yes, this Hanks is a rapper named Hayes, and he stinks. Well, on his show, Howard Stern made it pretty obvious he doesn't like the young Hanks and called out his list of embarrassments. Chet Hayes Hanks didn't like being called out like that, so he took to Twitter like a true brave boy, writing, quote, "Do you have any idea how badly I'm going to you when I see you? You can't run from me forever, knock knees. One day, maybe tomorrow, maybe 10 years from now, I am going to see you in person and I am going to hurt you. I hope you travel with security. Please have me on your show. I'll poop on you and your yuppie sidekicks on your own show. It's a shame you don't hang in the same circles as my family, not enough bread for that, cause if you did, I would have already seen you." And I mean, where the hell did Tom Hanks go wrong when raising this clown? I honestly don't understand. Howard may not dislike Hanks, but I'm sure he isn't a fan of part of Tom's parenting skills. But even then, the other Hanks children are all like super lovely, so I don't know, man. I don't get it. I just don't understand. Coming in at number 2 is Samantha Lewis, and it's speculation time. Samantha Lewis was the first wife of Tom Hanks before his long-lasting marriage to Rita Wilson. Lewis was a talented actress who effortlessly combined her beauty and brains to get her fans' undivided attention. Samantha may not have bagged numerous awards, but she was an impressive achiever in her own right. Her and Hanks only acted together, according to IMDb, once in Bosom Bodies in 1981. Tom Hanks and Samantha Lewis started living separately due to misunderstandings and complications, and these were the significant factors for their eventual split. They got divorced, and they each went their separate way. According to Tom Hanks, his divorce was caused by getting married at a very young age due to loneliness, and it was too early for him to take on additional responsibilities. How long was Tom Hanks married to Samantha Lewis? Well, they were married for 9 years. They got divorced in 1987 and never acted together again. But the relationship was actually quite good, and they co-parented fairly well up until Samantha passed away due to bone cancer, which devastated Hanks. But still, they never worked together since then, so I'm just saying. And in at number 1, D. David Morin. Yes, we're sticking with the speculation here because honestly, even people that have bad pasts with Tom Hanks still love Tom Hanks. After the divorce from Lewis, Tom Hanks went on to start seeing and eventually marrying actress Rita Wilson, and they became one of the most successful celebrity couples around. But just like Tom, Rita had been betrothed before to another actor named D. David Morin, and well, what do you know, he's never worked with Tom Hanks, which by the standards of this video must mean that he's refused to work with Hanks, regardless of the fact that they actually have zero issues and are just completely different tiers of actors.
Starting off our list today, at number 10 we have Tom Holland. If Tom Holland dislikes Gwyneth Paltrow, she's blissfully unaware of it, because the Goop founder has no idea who the Spider-Man actor is, despite the fact that they both worked on Avenger films and Spider-Man Homecoming together. Not to mention, Tom Holland has also become one of the biggest names in Hollywood. Nonetheless, in a trivia segment for Pop Sugar, Tom admitted that it breaks his heart to hear that Gwyneth, who plays Pepper Potts, didn't remember Spider-Man Homecoming at all. In fact, she apparently didn't even bother learning Tom's name. Though she did take a photo of him on the set of Avengers Endgame, Tom would then make a comment of the photo by saying she was in a blue shirt and I was in a Spider-Man suit. She came up, asked for a photo of me and Rob, and then I think she posted it and said Robert Downey Jr. and myself and this guy. I was just the guy. And indeed, if you head to her page, her caption did merely describe the British actor as the other guy in the photo. Well, at least she did not pretend to remember. Number 9, Jennifer Lopez. In today's world, it seems like Jennifer Lopez and Gwyneth Paltrow have a lot more in common than they realize. With both being multi-millionaires, they also both have very clean diets. Not to mention, they even both dated Ben Affleck. So it's easy to forget that the pair come from 2 entirely different worlds, as JLo is reportedly worth 4 times more than Gwyneth. And she even had to claw her way out of a Bronx bedroom that she shared with her 2 siblings, and against all odds, she somehow made it to Hollywood. Gwyneth, on on the other hand, was born into fame in Hollywood, as her father was a prominent director and her mother a Tony Award-winning star. So it kind of makes a lot of sense when it comes to the theory that these two just don't get along, particularly because decades ago their divide was even greater. In 2018, a 21-year-old movie line interview with Jennifer would go viral, and let's just say in the video, Jenny from the block didn't sugarcoat her feelings about Gwyneth when she said, "Tell me what she's been in. I swear to God, I don't remember anything she was in." Some people got hot by association. I heard more about her and Brad Pitt than I ever heard about her work. Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Number 8. Angelina Jolie. At this rate, it seems like every powerful woman in Hollywood just has really strong feelings when it comes to Gwyneth's personality or work ethic. And it's also really clear to say that Angelina and Gwyneth aren't exactly the best of buddies. But considering both dated Brad Pitt at one point, it's not really that surprising. Back in 2015, Gwyneth really ruffled Angelina's feathers after she enraged mothers everywhere when she suggested that the mother who works 9 to 5 jobs have it easier than she does as a working actress. When she told Entertainment Tonight, "It's much harder for me," but she actually didn't have to become an actress. Just remember, she chose this career path for herself. Angelina, of course, had some pretty harsh words for the actress, as she would later tell the same media outlet, "I'm not a single mom with 2 jobs trying to get by every day. I'm in a rare position where I don't have to do job after job." And it's clear that her remarks were in direct contrast to Gwyneth's out-of-touch statement. Number 7. Jessica Alba. As lifestyle gurus, you would think that Jessica Alba, who runs The Honest Company, and Miss Goop herself would get along, as they should be besties who love to trade candles and non-toxic household products. However, apparently that's just not the case. According to OK USA, things were in fact very toxic on the set of their TV series Planet of the Apps, as inside sources would claim that the two just couldn't really stand each other. The insider would then tell media outlets that the feud between both women was a lot like oil and water, to the point it was shocking that they even agreed to do the show together in the first place. While Gwyneth may have the monopoly on the celebrity-owned lifestyle website front, it's clear that Jessica is no slacker when it comes to her own national brand of wellness products. As the CEO of The Honest Company, the actress's brand is for every woman. And this is a statement that Gwyneth is just not too keen on. According to the New York Daily News, Gwyneth isn't happy about the comparisons between her business Goop and Jessica's The Honest Company, as she believes Jessica is a hypocrite because she is rich but blogs for poor people, where Gwyneth, on the other hand, is blogging about things she loves, no matter what it costs, like that $125K set of gold dumbbells she once bragged about. Number 6. Reese Witherspoon. When Reese Witherspoon doesn't like someone, she really makes her feelings clear. And while Reese may have made an appearance at Gwyneth's engagement party back in April of 2018, things weren't always so warm and fuzzy between the two blonde Oscar winners, as they actually seemed to keep their friendship close, but their enemies closer, and that's the type of relationship they have. In an interview with People magazine, Gwyneth once insisted that despite having a lifestyle like Reese, rapper James, there was generally no competitive spirit between them. However, things were once different, as Gwyneth was once even quoted making a comment about Reese with The Guardian, when she said, "Even with actresses that you really admire, like Reese Witherspoon, you think another romantic comedy. You see in her something like Walk the Line and think, God, you're so great. And then you think, why is she doing these stupid romantic comedies? But of course, it's for money and status."
Next up is comedian Jim Carrey. It's unlikely any comedian in general will side with Will Smith, considering the precedents it sets. But while touring for Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Jim Carrey was asked about his reaction to Will Smith getting on stage and hitting Chris. The comedian had this to say, quote, "I was sickened. I was sickened by the standing ovation. I felt like Hollywood is just spineless en masse. And it really felt like this is a real clear indication that we're not the cool club anymore. I'd have announced this morning that I was suing Will for $200 million because that video is going to be there forever. It's going to be ubiquitous. ridiculous. That insult is going to last a very long time. If you want to yell from the audience or disapprove or show disapproval or say something on Twitter or whatever, you do not have the right to walk up on stage and smack somebody in the face because they said words. Next up is Luke Skywalker himself, Mark Hamill. He has always been extremely outspoken on Twitter, and the Oscar slap incident was no exception. The night of the incident, he tweeted, quote, "Stand-up comics are very adept at handling hecklers. Physical harm, not so much." Okay, I abbreviated this because I'm not allowed to say a lot of words due to our feudal lords at YouTube, but you get the idea. The tweet left a heated debate in the comments, with one user writing, quote, "Chris Rock was wrong. Mocking Jada's medical condition, especially on stage in front of hundreds of people, is despicable. I don't blame Will for getting upset or for doing what he did." While another user wrote, quote, "You can't just harm people. Even if someone says something part of being an adult is understanding that you can't just hit people. I like Will Smith and I have compassion for his wife, but he was wrong to hit Chris Rock." Coming in at number 3 is Janet Hubert. Janet Hubert has had beef with Will Smith that predates the Oscars, thank God, all the way back to the 90s when she worked alongside him in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. She played Aunt Viv for 3 seasons before their beef led to her being replaced in 1993. She told HuffPost decades later, quote, "My departure was planned for a long time. There will never be a reunion for The Fresh Prince. Will Smith and Alfonso destroyed a 20-year career with untruths. I got slammed." Will apologized later in an Essence magazine article, but it still lingers. It's still there. Apparently, the beef started when Smith refused to vouch for Hubert when she wanted a pay raise and a contract renegotiation. Meanwhile, tons of rumors circulated that she was notoriously extremely difficult to work with, which derailed her career and she never really recovered from it. That being said, they did have a tentative truce when Will invited her onto the Fresh Prince reunion that she earlier said would never happen. Although I doubt she'd go through filming anything with him again. Next up is Chris Rock's brother, Tony Rock. Absolutely no surprise that he comes to his sibling's defense. Airing his frustrations on a stand-up set a few days after the Oscar slap incident, Tony stated, quote, "If you think you're gonna walk up on this stage, this ain't the Oscars. And if you walk your ass up here, you ain't nominated for with these hands." As the crowd cheered, Tony took it a step further, adding, quote, "I didn't want to start the show like that. You're gonna hit my brother." Tony also made it clear on Twitter after Will Smith apologized to Chris that he does not accept the apology on his brother's behalf by stating, quote, "No," when asked if he forgave him. Last but certainly not least is Chris Rock, who was the recipient of the slap in question. Interestingly, he said absolutely nothing about the slap and has kept extremely quiet. He's currently on tour and has made zero mention of the incident, although I'm sure he could have gotten away with a few digs considering that most people took his side. But that being said, I doubt he'd be running to star alongside Will Smith in any comedy anytime soon.
Number 10, Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise jumped for joy in 2005 when he announced his engagement to fellow actor Katie Holmes during an interview on the much-loved talk show The Oprah Winfrey Show. Tom's excitement was well known to many people, including his then co-star of the film Collateral, one Jamie Foxx. Yes, I know they have worked together in the past, but that is most likely never going to happen again. While close friends following the premiere of their film, Katie and Jamie actually became much closer than anticipated. So close, in fact, that when Katie and Cruise split in 2012, Jamie was right there to comfort her. The two were regularly seen together at ball games, or just out and about on the sidewalk, but it was confirmed that they shared a romantic connection following the leak of a photo taken by someone in Jamie's studio. The photo shows Jamie and Katie holding hands as they go through what appears to be some kind of meeting. Jamie recounted the story in interviews a few weeks following the photos circulating and confirmed that there was something there. He just didn't think it was necessary to tell anybody about it. Well, Tom thought it would be, because Tom has been very open about the fact that he doesn't speak to Katie anymore, both due to his religious and personal beliefs. And when he heard the news of these two being together, Cruise flipped his lid at Jamie and has refused to speak to him ever since. Sorry, Tommy, looks like Katie wanted someone a little more foxy. Number 9, Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne Johnson has been a Hollywood megastar since hanging up his leather boots and knee pads from his wrestling days. The idea of Jamie Foxx and Dwayne Johnson working together actually sounds kind of cool. The possibilities are endless. The only problem, though, is that it would be pretty hard deciding whose name is more important on the poster. Dwayne has been asked before if he would ever actually collaborate with Jamie, and he jokingly told reporters that he refused to work with Jamie simply because he's just a little nervous that Fox would outshine him in whatever project they ended up working on together. The Rock has been in several blockbuster franchises over the years, and Jamie has been making a name for himself as a leading man with his recent slew of Netflix projects like Day Shift and Project Power. So while the idea of these two sharing the screen is epic, the fear for The Rock is that it'll only be seen as a Jamie Foxx movie featuring featuring The Rock. It's okay, Rocky, just go find a jungle and make another Jumanji movie. Number 8. Cameron Diaz. Cameron Diaz first broke onto the silver screen in 1994's classic cult comedy The Mask, alongside the legendary Jim Carrey, and she also went on to portray Princess Fiona in the Shrek franchise, and many other wonderful things. Now, Cameron's spot on this list is an interesting one, as she was set to star alongside Fox in a new action comedy for Netflix called Back in Action. Recently, during the production of that film though, it was reported that Jamie Foxx had an on-set freakout following the discovery of a crew member trying to steal $55,000 from his personal bank account. Jamie had felt that the production of the film was cursed from the beginning, and it's been reported that the project has had several setbacks due to weather conditions as they were filming in the UK during the winter. On top of the weather and the plot to steal from him, Jamie also collapsed suddenly on set and has been in hospital for quite some time now. Cameron had actually come out of acting retirement to participate in this Netflix project, but recently told insiders that she would be returning to retirement following the negative experience that she's had on set, from not only the weather, but apparently Jamie as well. Not only refusing to work with Jamie again, but refusing to work ever again. Number 7. Nick Cannon. Nick has been a television host since 2006 when he first started on the hit TV talent show America's Got Talent. His bright smile filled the theater every time he walked on stage. The energy he brought, on top of his ability to interact with the performers, made him a memorable addition to the TV hosting world. Now, Nick and Jamie actually have a pretty long history together. In fact, Cannon has gone on record to say that Jamie Foxx let the young actor stay on his couch as a teen when he had nowhere else to go. His kindness and care gave him the confidence to make a name for himself, and that he did. Now, while the bond seems strong with these two, Nick has never actually worked with Fox, and in fact will be taking over his position as host on the game show Beat Shazam, a show where contestants have to try and guess a song faster than the music recognition app Shazam. Honestly, this will be a fun change of pace as Cannon has the right energy for the show. It just sucks that he's doing it because Jamie is in a coma. Number 6. P. Diddy. Sean P. Diddy is an American rap artist, producer, and part-time actor. He's worked with people like Usher and the notorious B.I.G., but recently his name has been brought up in connection to Jamie Foxx. Back in the day, Jamie and Diddy were supposedly friends, and Jamie would regularly be invited to attend some of Diddy's more private events. Sean had rules set in place for the people attending these events, and the main one being, don't talk about anything that you've seen. Well, a few months ago, a post was made to TikTok of a video in which Jamie openly discusses a particular party from back in the day where he tried to enter with a camera, but one of those like big 90s cameras, so it was massive and pretty hard to hide. When asked about this event, Diddy actually denied that it ever happened, but several rap artists like 50 Cent and T.I. have come forward with similar experiences. Diddy has claimed that while Jamie and him were friends in the past, any future collaborations of any kind were exclusively off the table. Alright, well that doesn't make you look guilty at all, Diddy.
Number 5. Julia Roberts. When Steven Spielberg worked with Julia Roberts, who played Tinkerbell in his 1991 Peter Pan adaptation Hook, Steven would claim that Julia was extremely difficult to work with. At the time of the movie's filming, it's said that Julia Roberts was going through a really hard breakup with her then fiance, Kiefer Sutherland, who was supposedly impacted her behavior on the set and garnered her the nickname Tinker Hell, among the other cast and crew members. However, no matter what you're going through, it never truly gives you a valid reason to behave poorly or mistreat any person. When Steven was later asked in an interview with 60 Minutes what it was like working with Julia Roberts for the movie, he would say, "It was an unfortunate time for us to work together, but I think Julia's a really good actress. But is being a good actress enough for someone to get away with treating people poorly?" Number 4. Mike Myers. Austin Power star Mike Myers apparently has a reputation for being difficult to work with. In an interview with AV Club, Mike's The Cat in the Hat co-star Amy Hill painted an unflattering portrait of the film's lead, right down to the claim that he has a sycophant trailing behind him all day whose entire job seems to be feeding Mike chocolates from a Tupperware container. Imagine putting that on your resume. Amy would then go on to characterize Myers as a diva who constantly made the cast and crew wait while he micromanaged the entire production. Later in a 2008 EW profile of Myers, Wayne's World director Penelope Spheres got her own digs in when she described him as being emotionally needy, and she would even note that Mike got become more difficult to work with as the shooting went on. Penelope would also echo Amy's experience when she recalled having to enlist her own daughter to perform the duties of a snack wrangler for Myers. But perhaps her most telling line from the internet was her remark when she said maybe he could open like a children's hospital to clean up his rep. He's gotta do something pretty quick. Number 3, Thomas Gibson. Do you ever wonder why Thomas Gibson just disappeared from Criminal Minds? Well, back in 2016, Thomas Gibson would find himself being suspended and later fired for kicking a writer on the set of Criminal Minds. The producers of the long-running series of CBS would then be forced to announce that the actor who had been on the drama since it launched in 2005 would not be returning to the show when it returned for its 12th season. The argument apparently happened when the show's creative gave Thomas some direction. Thomas clearly didn't appreciate it. Take this as a word of advice: when it comes to giving direction and you're not the director, it's probably best not to give it, especially if you're an actor yourself, as this is the biggest way to make enemies in the business, and it could help you if you're ever to work on a set with Thomas Gibson in the future. After Thomas was fired, both Deadline and TMZ would also report that Thomas was ordered to attend anger management classes after he was caught shoving an assistant director back in 2010. Number 2, Bruce Willis. It's no secret that Bruce Willis is one of the most problematic actors to work with in Hollywood. When his co-star, Sybil Shepherd, called him out in his first big project, the television series Moonlighting People, thought it might be personality clash, but since then everyone from Kevin Smith to Sylvester Stallone has talked about how difficult he is to deal with. From superstar action hero to being relatively hidden, it seems like Bruce Willis' reputation has changed slightly over the years, as he's now considered to be one of the most difficult actors to work with. One of the first time Bruce would end up being called out on his odd behavior on set was by Kevin Smith, who directed the actor in the 2010 film Cop Out. Kevin would call his experience soul-crushing and allegedly said at the wrap-up party, "I want to thank everyone who worked on the film except for Bruce Willis, who is an effing wang." 3 years later, Sylvester Stallone spoke out about dropping Willis from Expendables 3 when he tweeted, "Greedy and lazy, a formula for career failure." It would be revealed that Bruce demanded a pay increase despite having a very minimal role in the film. On top of these reactions from stars who have worked with Bruce, it has been well noted that he is a notoriously poor interview subject and his bad attitude is now well known. And coming in at number 1 today, we have Katherine Heigl. For years, Katherine Heigl's departure from Grey's Anatomy remained a speculation, and after she exited the show, she would be labeled as a difficult person to work with in Hollywood. In a tell-all book, How to Save a Life, the inside story of Grey's Anatomy, Entertainment Weekly editor Lynette Rice would talk about numerous anonymous sources about Katherine Heigl's sudden exit. According to Insider, one source suggested that Grey's Anatomy creator Shonda Rhimes felt like she was to blame for Katherine leaving the show. The Insider also said Rhimes felt like Katherine felt like she was the star of the show and she resented that the other actors on the set were becoming stars of their own, and that's why she left the medical drama and turned down an Emmy nomination to pursue other opportunities. Well, it's been said Katherine turned down the opportunity because she felt like she wasn't given material that season to warrant an Emmy nomination. Many felt like it was a quick swipe at Rhimes. Since leaving Grey's, Katherine has been trying to save her reputation in Hollywood, as she claims should have never had strain on it in the first place.
Anyways, moving on, at number 10 is Isaac Kappy. You may not know this name very well, and that's because actor Isaac Kappy's biggest claim to fame is being the pet store owner in 2011's Thor movie for like 20 seconds maybe. Yeah, well, this guy took to 4chan to claim that a big group of celebrities, primarily Seth Green, but also Steven Spielberg, Stephen Colbert, Bill Clinton, and of course Tom Hanks, are all part of a secret underground ring of criminals who have a preference for the most innocent members of our society. None of the allegations by Kappy against anyone he mentioned have been confirmed or proven true in any way whatsoever, and many believe that Kappy might be mentally unstable, which may have something to do with why the tables have turned on Kappy, who became investigated by the LAPD for being aggressive with Paris Jackson at a party, threatening people on social media, and being incredibly over the top with Seth Green and his wife. Nonetheless, I doubt he would allow himself to ever work with Tom Hanks. But then again, I doubt anyone will want to work with him after all that anyways, so There you go. Number 9. Bill O'Reilly. A few years back, some 2004 footage of a school fundraiser that was being emceed by Mr. Hanks leaked online. The reason this footage went viral was because of another parent who also took to the stage in blackface, which got Hanks exposed for being acquainted with a racist parent. Well, the clip also features Hanks making a joke when he said, quote, "Who would have thought that Bill O'Reilly would join us?" insinuating, probably accurately, that Bill O'Reilly is a racist. It turns out Bill was also actually at the fundraiser. Hanks issued a public apology saying, quote, "I used Bill O'Reilly as the punchline of an uncomfortable joke that was hardly funny and was unfair. I have no reason to think Mr. O'Reilly would have found both the reason for the joke nor my use of it funny in any way." Now, sure, O'Reilly forgave Hanks, but he probably gets that kind of thing a lot, so I don't know if that really matters. You know? Number 8. James Gandolfini. Catch Me If You Can is one of Tom Hanks' biggest movies, with some real huge names to throw its weight around with. But while the cast included Hanks, Leonardo DiCaprio, Christopher Walken, Martin Sheen, and James Brolin, before Spielberg signed on to direct this one though, it was originally going to be directed by Gore Verbinski, who had previously cast and signed actors such as Ed Harris and James Gandolfini. Originally, it was supposed to be Gandolfini who played the role that was eventually adapted into Hanks' character in the film, but alas, conflicts with DiCaprio led to Verbinski having to forego the project to Spielberg, and with that, Gandolfini was no longer in, and Tom Hanks swept in to take his place, and the rest is history. Number 7. David Alan Grier. A film and Broadway veteran, David Alan Grier in the early 1990s was best known for his role in Boomerang and the sketch comedy series In Living Color. Just like Dave Chappelle on Part 1, Grier was also offered the role of Bubba in Forrest Gump alongside Tom Hanks. It would have been the biggest job yet for Grier, but still, the actor passed. That's even with the fact that director Robert Zemeckis asked him 3 separate times, and even Tom Hanks himself wanted Grier for the movie. Still, Grier stood by his decision. When talking of the choice with Busy Tonight in 2018, he said, and I quote, "I'm like, listen, if I'm going to be playing a mentally challenged person, I get to be the lead. I can't be no mentally challenged sidekick. So I read 20 pages and said, listen man, I'm not going in on this." He's talking about Shrimp the whole damn movie. Now he did admit that he screwed that up though, and yeah, kind of. Also, his reasoning is a little bit of a weird one if you ask me, but I guess I get it. Sort of. Not really. Number 6. Billy Crystal. Before comedian and actor Billy Crystal brought us the voice of Mike Wazowski in Monsters Inc., he was very nearly cast in another animated movie. Billy Crystal was very nearly the voice of the beloved Buzz Lightyear in Pixar's debut film Toy Story back in 1995, alongside Tom Hanks, who, as I'm sure you know, played Woody. After casting Hanks, John Lasseter, the director, approached Crystal specifically, convinced that he had the perfect voice for Buzz, which I gotta say, I cannot imagine the voice of Mike Wazowski on Buzz Lightyear, like at all. Thankfully for us though, but unfortunately for him, Crystal quickly passed on the project. Unsurprisingly, after Toy Story was released with Tim Allen as Buzz and became the highest grossing film of 1995, he regretted it. He famously told Yahoo Entertainment, quote, "I'm the schmuck who turned down Toy Story." And yeah, you are.
Number 5. Bill Maher. The comedian and television host made it pretty clear that he despises Will Smith on several occasions, most notably on one episode of his talk show Real Time with Bill Maher, which aired on April 1st. Bill reacted to the explosive outrage against the actor at the time. Quote, "To Will Smith, stay strong and I got your back," before following it up with, "April Fools, you're a D." Maher went on to say that he couldn't feel sorry for Pinkett Smith because according to him, comparing a woman to Demi Moore looking her hottest is not exactly the worst insult he's ever heard. Then he made a pretty controversial comparison. Quote, "I mean, alopecia is not leukemia." And no, he has not changed his opinion since. In fact, in another episode, Bill did a revived edition of Explaining Jokes to Idiots where he made fun of cancel culture, the increased attacks against comedians, and called Will Smith humor impaired. He then said that it comes down to doing crowd work while hosting the Oscars. Celebrities should try to be a good sport and allow themselves to be made fun of for 1 minute. The politically incorrect alum even noted that Chris Rock's joke was initially received as funny by the audience, including Will Smith, who was initially spotted laughing before he decided to do anything else. Number 4. Wanda Sykes. She co-hosted this year's Oscars along with Amy Schumer and Regina Hall. So comedian Wanda Sykes really saw everything unfold firsthand on Hollywood's Night of Nights, and she had a lot to say about it. Right after the Oscars, she addressed Will Smith's actions. Quote, "For them to let him stay in that room and enjoy the rest of the show and accept accept his award? I was like, how gross is this? This is just the wrong message, before joking that she wanted to be able to run out after he won and say, unfortunately, Will couldn't be here tonight. And while performing a stand-up comedy show in Orlando, she brought it up again, saying, I'm still traumatized. I couldn't believe he was still sitting there. Shouldn't you be sitting there with a lawyer or LAPD? She added that he hopes he gets his life together, but until then, F him. Wanda clearly hasn't changed her opinion of Smith. In fact, while appearing as a guest on a recent episode of Live with Kelly and Ryan, they asked her if she'd be open to hosting the Oscars again. And she just said, oh, hell no. To be fair, she did happen to co-host the most dramatic Academy Awards ceremony in recent history, as she recalled the incident again. Quote, so everybody's just gonna sit here? I was like, the show just kept going on. And I looked behind the curtain and he's still sitting here. What is happening? What is going on? It was crazy. It was just bizarre. Number 3, Sharon Osborne. In an April interview with the Sunday Times, the former talk co-host expressed her opinion on the Oscar incident. Osborne made the comparison when explaining the hypocrisy she sees where some people are too scared to make judgments to a person's face about their behavior, but will do so behind a computer screen or behind their back, and used the recent Oscars incident between Will Smith and Chris Rock as an example. Quote, when he wins Best Actor award, everybody stands up. It's like, you're such hypocrites. You're going to go home and say how disgraceful his behavior was, but you stand up and give him a standing ovation. But most controversially, she then went on to compare Will Smith to Hitler, insinuating that no matter how horrible someone is, the industry will still try and find a way to make money off of them. Although her experience isn't exactly like Will Smith's, Sharon Osborne dealt with plenty of criticism of her own, following her comments on the talk over the Piers Morgan and Meghan Markle feud. After a heated discussion with her and the talk show co-host last year, she was fired from the show by CBS, so she's no stranger to backlash herself, but clearly she didn't mind comparing Will Smith to possibly the worst person who ever existed. Number 2, Rosie O'Donnell. The comedian actually compared Will Smith to former President Trump, blasting the Oscar winner as a narcissistic madman who isn't being held accountable for slapping Chris Rock during the Oscars. O'Donnell took to Twitter to condemn Smith for the stunning confrontation at the 94th Annual Academy Awards. She wrote to her more than 1 million Twitter followers, quote, we watched him do it. Then, like the Trump years, we don't hold anyone accountable. Shame on us, shame on Will. O'Donnell made it very clear that she believes that the Oscars had failed everyone by not publicly denouncing Will right after the incident occurred and still allowing him to accept his award. But comedians do tend to stand together on this issue, and she went on to praise Chris Rock for his composure after he was attacked on stage. Quote, so upsetting on every level. Bravo to Chris Rock for not eviscerating Will Smith, which he could do any day of the week. He walked away from a sad display of toxic masculinity. Those words sound pretty harsh, but it's very clear that she absolutely hates Smith for his erratic behavior that night, and the message it sends to other comedians. And coming in at number 1, Chris Rock himself. The comedian has not publicly commented directly on the slap, including in the wake of Smith's recent video apology, which was directly addressed to him. Instead, Chris Rock chose to use comedy to speak about the incident. During his apology video, the actor insisted that he's reached out to Chris, and the message that came back is that he's not ready to talk, which couldn't be more apparent. He first brought it up during a stand-up set at London's Royal Albert Hall. Quote, I'm okay. If anybody's wondering, got most of my hearing back. He followed that up with, don't expect me to talk about the BS. Your tickets were expensive, but not that expensive. Rock also referenced the incident when Dave Chappelle was attacked on stage near the end of his performance during the Netflix Is a Joke festival. When talking about the assailant, the comedian said, I thought that was Will Smith. After the recent apology was posted, Rock continued to make jokes while on stage in Atlanta. Quote, if everybody claims to be a victim, then nobody will hear the real victims. Even me getting smacked by Suge Smith, I went to work the next day. I got kids. He also added that anyone who says words hurt has never been punched in the face. Gotta love his take on that.
Coming in at number 10 on our list is Mia Farrow. Mia Farrow is an actress who was extremely outspoken about her reaction to the ill-fated Oscars night. After it happened, she took to Twitter to post, quote, it was just a joke. Jokes are what Chris Rock does. Always has been edgy. This was a mild joke for him, and I love G.I. Jane. What I saw was one of Hollywood's most powerful movie stars stalking onto a stage to strike a comedian for an unfortunate joke about his gorgeous wife's shaved head. Anyone who is okay with that has probably never been hit by a powerful man. As we advise our kids, use your words. A lot of people in the comments to her post were duking it out, with some people equating alopecia to cancer, and others saying that Will Smith should be jailed for slapping Chris. comments. My favorite reply was someone linking another tweet saying, quote, "It's actually not funny at all. Will Smith could have killed him with that slap. What if his hand had been full of bees and Chris Rock was allergic to bees and one of the bees stung Chris and nobody had an EpiPen? Not funny now, is it?" Next up is Howard Stern, who had a whole show planned before he decided to scrap it all and focus on the Oscars incident instead. Quote, "Well, I had a whole show planned, but I gotta throw that out because I want to vent about this Oscars thing that occurred." The blunt reporter certainly held nothing back and did in fact vent quite readily about the whole situation. Quote, "This is a sign of great mental illness when you can't control your impulse. Not only that, it was hardly an insulting joke. It wasn't even a good joke." It may be safe to say that Howard Stern wasn't too fond of Will Smith after the headline made the incident. He even compared Will to former US President Donald Trump. He also criticized the Academy's handling of the situation, including the lack of security taking action. While there have been mixed reports on whether or not Will Smith was asked to leave the ceremony following the slap, the star still went onto stage to collect his award for Best Actor mere moments later. Howard Stern was upset that no one seemed to care and even cheered for him once he won the award. Quote, "Will Smith harmed another human being, and you guys did nothing." Another celebrity who will definitely never work with Will Smith is Judd Apatow. Probably the most embarrassing set of tweets to come out of the whole Oscars slap situation were Judd Apatow's, which are since deleted. Although he was one of the first people to call out Will Smith for his behavior, some think that he took it way too far. Judd wrote on Twitter, quote, "He could have killed him. That's pure out of control rage and aggression." After he received pushback for the tweet, the 40-year-old Virgin director elaborated his viewpoints on the SiriusXM pop culture spotlight. He admitted that he wasn't actually watching the Oscars when he took to Twitter, but was instead informed of the incident while on the phone with a friend. That being said, he did stick by his statements about Will Smith in other interviews. Quote, "As soon as that line is crossed, really anything can happen. That's what happened, but something else could have happened too." Judd also told Pop Culture Spotlight, quote, "I just think there certainly is a way of handling dissatisfaction. We should never tell people that the solution is to break that barrier and leap on the stage and commit an act of harm in front of people who are inspired by you." Coming in at number 7, Rosie O'Donnell. Not unlike Howard Stern's take, Rosie O'Donnell also had a problem with how the Academy Award organizers handled the situation. Clearly, Rosie was signing off to Team Chris Rock when she tweeted out, quote, "So upsetting on every level. Bravo to Chris Rock for not eviscerating Will Smith, which he could do any day of the week. He walked away. Bravo from a sad display of toxic masculinity from a narcissistic madman. If only they would take it into the ring, then we could truly see who is eviscerating who." In addition to making it clear that she believed Chris Rock could demolish Smith in, I guess, a battle of comedic minds, Rosie also heavily criticized the Academy for their initial response to the entire situation. In a separate tweet written in response to a statement released by the organization about not condoning violence, she asked, quote, "Then why did you do nothing?" O'Donnell didn't stop there. She also spent quite a bit of time retweeting messages from her friends and other Twitter users that all condemn Will Smith's actions and praise Chris Rock for not acting in retaliation. Kathy Griffin is up next as someone who likely won't work with Will Smith based on how she reacted to the Oscars, having very clearly sided with Chris Rock in this situation. She tweeted out, quote, "Let me tell you something. It's a very bad practice to walk up on stage and physically harm a comedian. Now we all have to worry about who wants to be the next Will Smith in comedy clubs and theaters." It's perhaps extremely unsurprising that Griffin, who herself loves to push the boundaries of comedy, would side with Chris Rock in this situation and be more concerned about the safety of comedians after seeing Chris Rock get slapped over a joke. Given her own controversies of inciting violence against former President Donald Trump that landed her in trouble with the Secret Service, we weren't surprised to see that she got some pushback from her tweets about being kind to one another.
Number 5, Henry Winkler. Henry Winkler, best known for his role as DeFonz on Happy Days, was set to direct Tom in the much-loved buddy cop movie Turner and Hooch. The Fonz had actually fought with Hanks in character on the set of Happy Days for one episode back in the day before collaborating together. It seems like Tom wished the fight was real though. Apparently the two of them didn't get along at all. So much so that a few days into shooting Turner and Hooch, Hanks ordered Winkler to be removed from the set and replaced as director. Imagine having that kind of power. "This man displeases me, remove him from my sight." Not only did Tom complain that he was annoying and bad at his job, but upon firing Winkler, the film's producer ripped Henry's contract up in front of his face. Henry has denied that he hates Tom, but come on, not even like a little upset, they ripped up paper in your face. That is hardcore, man. Number 4, Ricky Gervais. If you didn't know, Ricky Gervais, along with Stephen Merchant, were the original creators of the comedy mockumentary The Office. Initially a 6-episode series, it was eventually picked up by American producers and remade into the classic comedy that we all know and love today. In 2011, Ricky was asked to host the Golden Globe ceremony, and the normally funny man ended up coming across as kinda rude. Ricky made several jokes throughout the night that seemed to be aimed at specific celebrities, but they weren't clever enough to actually make people laugh. Tom Hanks was in the audience, and he was visibly confused during the entire show. When it was his turn to take the stage, Tom took the opportunity to ask why he wasn't asked to host the Golden Globes instead of Gervais. Ricky felt the shade and gave Hanks a nasty eye roll. He later defended his hosting gig, claiming that hosting is an entirely different thing than just doing one segment. You're responsible for the flow of the show. He wanted people to have a good time, but be on their toes as well. Something tells me if Hanks ever does ask Ricky to be in a project, he'll be met with the same fiery eye roll. Number 3, Garth Brooks. Unlike a lot of musical artists in recent history, Garth Brooks hasn't done a ton of actual acting, beyond like a few cameos here and there and in his own music videos. According to Billboard though, it isn't for lack of trying. It was reported that Garth's former production partner and de facto talent agent, Lisa Sanderson, filed a lawsuit against the singer alleging that she lost a ton of money because Garth turned down every single role in every TV show or movie he was offered ever. And there were a lot. Tom Hanks even wanted Garth to be a part of his ensemble cast for the Army epic Saving Private Ryan. He would have starred alongside Hollywood heavyweights like Matt Damon, Vin Diesel, and Edward Burns among others. But Garth turned him down without a second thought, simply because he would have been part of an ensemble cast and he wasn't going to be the actual lead actor. Hey, no offense Garth, but you're not better than Matt Damon. Number 2, John Leguizamo. Tom's first run of movies were light-hearted family flicks or rom-coms like Big, Sleepless in Seattle, and A League of Their Own. In 1993, Tom decided to take a turn at the dramatic side of acting when he took on the role of Andrew Beckett in the movie Philadelphia. Beckett is a lawyer dying of AIDS who is grappling with systemic homophobia while suing his former law firm for wrongful termination. This role would gift Tom with his first Oscar win and Antonio Banderas a nomination for his role as Hank's lover in the film. But funnily enough though, that role almost went to the man who would eventually voice Sid the Sloth in the Ice Age movies. John Leguizamo was known for his comedic chops in the early 90s, and he wanted to branch out into film. He was offered the role as Tom Hanks' lover in the project, as Tom was trying to give the young comedian an outlet to work in a more dramatic fashion, like he was trying to do. John turned down the role as he wasn't completely comfortable playing that character. He instead opted to star in the live-action film adaptation of the Super Mario Brothers. Yeah, needless to say, everyone in Philadelphia won Oscars, and John got to play with fungus for 6 months. Good move. And number 1, Dave Chappelle. Okay, argue with me all you want, Dave Chappelle was huge in the 90s. Not only was he slowly building his career as a stand-up comedian, he was also able to land supporting roles in several big budget projects like Robin Hood Men in Tights, The Nutty Professor, and he even took center stage as the leading man of the much-loved hippie comedy Half-Baked. Say it with me, bodegas. Very good. When Tom Hanks was ready to follow up his dramatic turn in Philadelphia with the American history epic Forrest Gump, which won him his second Oscar, Dave Chappelle was on Tom's shortlist to play Forrest's beloved army buddy Benjamin Buford Blue, aka Bubba. In the film, they met in Vietnam, and Bubba sadly loses his life in the process. In his memory, Forrest goes on to name his successful shrimp restaurant Bubba Gump Shrimp. With such a beautifully written friendship and a major role in the film's overall story, Dave would be crazy to refuse the offer, right? Well, yeah, right. Yeah, he was crazy. Dave apparently read the script and turned Hanks down hard. He later said in one of his stand-up shows that they asked him to play Bubba, and they must have given him the wrong script because at the time, he said it was trash. While scripts go through multiple stages of editing, the plot of Forrest Gump on paper was probably not a coherent read. Just like, what do you mean he meets John Kennedy and jogs across the country? Ping pong!